Hey, mathematician friends! Today's addition and subtraction within 20 is big idea number 2. We're continuing with addition and subtraction situations, putting it into real life word problems, right? So, Unit 1, Lesson 14, I can represent and solve compare word problems. We're finally at the compare word problems. So, we have our poster. Now we're in the bottom right corner where we've got the compare problems. So you've done add to problems, you've done take from problems, done put together take apart problems. Now we are at compare problems. All right, so in this section here, you'll notice that it's the sum, which just means like the total of the other two, right? It's also who or what has more because we are comparing, seeing who has more or less, right? So this part is the bigger part, or who has the most, right? This part here, one of the addends, is the smaller part. Who has what? Who or what has fewer? Then this here, this other addend is the difference. The difference is an answer to a subtraction problem, right? This is also when we're comparing, the difference is how many more or fewer. So if you hear how many more or fewer, those are good keywords. You might not always hear them, but those are good keywords to help you know that we are comparing something. All right. So again, nothing's coming or leaving necessarily, right? But now we have the keywords how many more or fewer to help us. So let's take a look at a problem. Here, Jane and Ernie have some apples. Jane has 6 apples and Ernie has 9 apples. Who has more apples? How many more? Okay, so did you hear the words how many more? What is this problem about? Jane and Ernie's apples. What are the two questions? Okay, so if we look up here, what are our questions? Who has more and how many more? How many apples does Jane have? Do you remember? 6 apples. How many does Ernie have? 9 apples. So who has more? So let's compare that. 6 apples to 9 apples. Which one of those numbers is more? Ah, the 9. So then who has more? Ernie. Okay. Then how many more? So now, how many more apples does Ernie have than Jane? Or how many fewer apples does Jane have than Ernie? We can look at a picture of this. Let's look at it a little closer. This one might be easier to see. So Jane had 6, remember? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you notice how they grouped 5 that we can easily see and gave a little space for the 6th one? They did the same thing with Ernie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Left a little space. 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember, he had 9 apples. So no matter what we're comparing, a simple drawing like this, just circles or dots to connect, could be a good math drawing for this. So they just connected all of the ones that matched up. 1 for Jane, 1 for Ernie, 1 for Jane, 1 for Ernie. Just connected all of those, and then they ran out of any for Jane to connect to Ernie's. So then how many more does Ernie have? 3. How many fewer does Jane have? 3. She's missing 3 to make it equal to Ernie, right? So whoever has more or fewer might change, but how many more and fewer is the same number, okay? So no matter which way you're figuring it out for, this addend or difference should come out to be the same. So let's show how to represent this drawing using rectangles and ovals. The longer rectangle is on top, just like a math mountain, right? Next, let's read the problem to decide how to label the bars. So Ernie had the most, so he was the top bar, and Jane had fewer, she had 6. Now we will fill in the numbers for the problem. So 9, 6. Finally, we write a question mark for the unknown number. That could be any one of these spots. You have to read the problem to figure it out, right? So how is this drawing similar to this drawing? Did you notice that it's kind of like a longer part? But in the math, in the compare bar, they did that one on top so that it's very similar to a number bond or math mountain where the total is at the top. So the largest number is at the top. For comparison, it's the total in a problem where we're an add to problem, take from problem, or a put together take apart problem. So the largest number, just like the total, is at the top of Math Mountain, and then the smaller parts. Okay. Manny has 8 roses. Asha has 12 roses. How many more roses does Asha have than Manny? So pay close attention to the language. Some use more or fewer, and some use equalizing language, like how many more. So this one says how many more. Let's look at some other problems that might have different language. Manny has 8 roses. Asha has 12 roses. How many more roses does Asha have than Manny? We read that one. So this problem might look like this. We know that Asha has 12. That's the one that has more. So we give her the largest bar. Manny has 8. That's a smaller number. So that goes in the smaller part, one of the addends. We label them A and M for Asha and Manny. Here's our unknown partner. Manny has 8 roses. Asha has 4 more roses than Manny. So she has like 4 extras, right? How many roses does Asha have? So now we know that Asha has more, but she doesn't have a total of 4. That would be less than 8, right? So Manny has 8, and we know that he doesn't have as many. So he gets the smaller bar. We know that the part that's more or fewer, that Asha has 4 more. So that's the part here. So to figure out how many Asha has, we have to figure out Manny's plus those 4. So this is the unknown part. So here we had an unknown that was the difference, the more or fewer. Here we have an unknown bigger part who has more, or how many that person that has more has. And then this one here, Asha has 12 roses. So now they give us the bigger part. Manny has 4 fewer. Okay, so now we know the more or fewer part, but we don't know how many Manny has. So do you see how this same problem was worded in different ways? Do you see how it's kind of like with these ones, because they used the same people and same numbers, it's kind of like the fact family, right, with a different missing part. So now you can work independently on pages 47 and 48. Be sure to make a drawing and write an equation to represent the problems. And so because we're doing compare problems now, this is how our paper should look. Okay, we need that bigger part for the one that has the most, the smaller part for who has fewer, and how many more or fewer goes in the oval or circle part. And these aren't necessarily like to size. This isn't necessarily like smaller number just because it's a smaller circle in the compare bar. They're not, it's not necessarily to scale or anything. But notice again how it's kind of similar to a math mountain, okay? Where our total goes here, larger number goes here. Parts that equal that total, parts that equal that largest portion, okay? And in this case, this is how many more or fewer. So somewhat alike, somewhat different. So I'm going to need to have this drawing on every one of my sections today. Okay, so I need to read, think about the problem. How is this one? I see. How many library books does Dale have? So, what makes this a compare problem? Remember, we have to read the whole thing. Ben has 11 library books. If Ben returns 4 books, he will have as many library books as Dale. How many library books does Dale have? Okay, so they're equalizing. They're trying to see how to make them equal. They're not asking how many more or fewer. So Ben has 11 library books. If Ben returns 4 books, he will have as many. So it sounds like Ben has 11 is the larger part there. So here, my number is 11. I can label this Ben. And I know that the part that's more or fewer is 4. He's going to return 4, and then he'll have as many as Dale. So now I can put the name Dale here. I have no idea where it stopped recording, but I've been able to label this Ben, and Dale had the smaller amount. So Ben had 11. We know that if he returns 4 books to the library, he'll have the same amount as Dale. So this is our unknown partner that we need to solve for. We can have our equation. And remember how they used the drawing of just circles, and Ben could have 11. Maybe you draw that many and cross out 4, or don't draw, you make a line and leave the 4 empty and draw the rest for Dale to figure it out. Use what you need to solve this problem. But you need to have, oh, I forgot a label, didn't I? So this is how many more or fewer one person has than the other. So I'm just going to write 4 fewer, because that's how many he's taking back. All right, so then you'll figure out what your unknown is and label it, how many library books, and work on the next one. So again, you're going to need one of these again down here and here and here. Okay, so remember to label. Remember your unknown can be in any place. And they may ask how many more or fewer, or they may ask equalizing language to see how to get them to the same point. So